Resource Review, we welcome special guest and practicing teacher Amy Atkinson. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Thanks for having me.
There has been a study by several theologists who attempted to investigate whether primary education can be effectively supported by computer-supported collaborative learning. Their findings indicated that the intervention does support learner engagement to a considerable extent. Amy is a primary school teacher. We've invited her in today to take us through a couple of resources that support these findings. Amy's going to review for us a couple of interactive whiteboard resources that can be used in the primary school classroom. Amy, please tell us a bit about your first resource.
Sure. Well, the first resource we'll look at today is Deadly 60s Food Chains. Now, this is one of the online science and technology resources which would be suitable for Stage 2 students. It's a bit of a drill and practice activity, but it's an instructional games as well.
Okay.
It also, sorry to cut you off, it also takes students on a virtual tour through each stage of the food chain whilst testing their knowledge along the way. Students interact with the online program through identifying different carnivores and herbivores whilst placing them in order of the food chain.
Oh, okay. So how would you use it in your classroom exactly?
Well, I would usually use it as an introduction to the unit of work. It also tests my students' prior knowledge, and it allows me to understand how they stand in their perception of the food chain.
Okay, fabulous. Why do you think your students enjoy it so much?
Well, the resource is highly engaging and motivating as well. The students are immersed in this wildlife situation where they have to find the most deadly predator. It's almost like a Bear and Grylls episode. It's great. So the graphics are great, and it gives you little bits of information along the way on each animal that's featured, and it builds on overall prior knowledge as well.
Okay, it sounds like a lot of fun. But in terms of the interactive whiteboard?
I actually prefer to use it with my students as like a one-on-one activity or even in pairs. It could be used as a whole class activity, but I think it's more appropriate on a smaller scale, and this way I can step back and let the students just control their own learning and exploration.
Fantastic. Are there any downsides to the program?
Well, my only concerns would be that the content's a little bit limited. It also only has 2 food chain examples. So the whole activity, it goes for 15 minutes, but that's a little bit short. So this resource would probably need to be supported by further learning activities. And Berry and other theologists comment on the use of computer-based learning and refer to it as hard fun. Now, I actually have that same view because it's fun, but also it's hard in that the teacher has to do a lot of other preparation for this resource to actually enhance learning.
Okay, right. Could you tell us a little bit about your second resource?
Well, this is another fantastic one too. It's BBC's bite-sized software for teachers and students. They have English, maths and science resources, but we're going to focus on the English writing resource today. It's recommended for Stage 3 learning, and it's more of a tutorial-based software.
Great. What are some of the highlights?
Well, most definitely the read icon. It's almost like a mini teacher resource. You get into the interactive sections of the program with students. It contains background information that a teacher can brush up on their previous knowledge, or sometimes I just read it out in front of the class. Now, Huang and other theologians state that prior knowledge plays an important role as a moderator between online participation and learning performance. Now, this is the benefit of the research. But it also limited Deadly 60s resource in that you didn't need prior knowledge.
Okay, so how do you use the program in the classroom?
Well, I prefer to use this program with the whole class. This one is more of a teacher-directed in that sense. I usually have them sitting down on the floor and then I'll show them the Melvin and Stephen clip, and they just love that show. It's just fantastic. It's a bit of a comedy routine which contains all the information the students need to know. Because it's funny, the students listen to it intently and sometimes will even watch it twice.
Fantastic. I love the music.
Yeah, it's great. So do the students. Melvin and Stephen feature through all of the English resources, so students know the theme song. And once we've watched the clip, we complete an activity as a class. So if there are any computers as well, you could divide the students into groups for further one-on-one learning. And the activity has questions based on the information they've been given by Mel and Stephen. My students have commented that it doesn't feel like work because it's just so much fun.
Fantastic. That's great. Having fun while learning is always a bonus, I suppose.
Absolutely. There's also a bit of research out there on the belief that interactive whiteboards, they have positive effects on both motivation and learning.
Excellent. Is it all play and no work though?
Not at all. I usually move away from the IWB as this point students have to work on their own argument and persuasive text before they bring them all back to me at the end of the unit. So they actually don't use the IWB for that, but then at the end we usually finalise all our findings on the unit by using the IWB to sum it up.
Excellent. So it's kind of used as an introduction and a conclusion.
Sure does.
Excellent. So it covers so much. Are there any downsides to this resource?
Well, it takes a while for the play section to load, so make sure you have something to do to fill in the time. Usually I do a mind map on the board for the students to fill out, and all the things that they learnt from Melvin and Stephen we usually pop up on the board. This way they have a visual display and they also can work through the activity. And the robot character can be a little hard to understand sometimes, so make sure you get the students to revise what they understood.
Okay, fantastic. I've actually also heard about a resource called 7 Things You Should Know About, and I believe you use that to assess the appropriateness of this in your classroom.
Yes, it was very helpful and I recommend it for all teachers.
Well, thanks for having us on the show, and we'll see you next time, Amy.
We'll see you then. Thank you.